Yeah, definitely interesting to see what that panel will get up to next. Lots of insights into sustainability, and nice to hear a lot of positive optimism about the future in that area. We are often, I think, keen to look at the negatives. What are your reflections, Per?
Well, my reflections is that we all in this meeting at the Nordic BIM Summit, we are in an industry that really could make an impact, and we can do it now. As Matthias said, right now, why not start today?
Yeah, I definitely agree. And it's nice to see some focus on this area within this industry. But I think crucially, it's going to be about whether people are actually able to think about it from day one and embed it into their day-to-day work. That will have a real impact on how much of an impact there is on sustainability and climate change in the future. But we are going to jump into our next section of the day now. Last but not least, it's all about digitalisation, right, Per?
Yes, it is. And we have another really big name for you, Peter Linder, head of 5G marketing for Ericsson in North America. He's going to share some best practices in digitalization from a range of different industries and perspectives. So take it away, Peter.
Welcome. I'm here today to talk about some of the learnings from Ericsson and how that can apply to your industry. And I'm going to cover a couple of different things, both regarding what we have learned regarding digital transformation, but also what I think you should be thinking about when it comes to 5G and have a 5G effect, how we build buildings in the future. Regarding the digital transformation, I think it's fair to say, like, if you go back 10 years when we produced radios that you see in all these towers that goes up for mobile services, that was hardware and software integrated. Part of our digital transformation journey has been to separating these things apart. And that has created a number of different advantages. First, if you go back to 2015, everything that we have shipped from back then is today software upgradable to 5G capabilities. And that means that 3 years before the standard was introduced, we were able to ship things, physical goods, into the market that later could be upgraded with software. I would imagine that in your industry, where you're putting in buildings with a very, very long lifetime, that you also are thinking about how can we secure that this particular building can evolve over time and work with new needs. So some of the key reflections I made with this technology, not only is it upgradable in the field, but it's also changed how we work. 10 years ago, when 4G was introduced, smartphones came with new variants typically once a year. And smartphones was the thing that you were building a mobile network to support. So the software that we introduced came together with the hardware typically in annual releases. Now it goes a lot quicker. So now we're introducing software pretty much every 2 weeks, every 4 weeks, depending on what type of product we're talking about. So we are at the point right now where we are adding capabilities to the product so frequent so we can support not only smartphones coming with new models once a year, but all the different devices that's coming in between. Second point I want to make is about agile development. Agile development where you don't see the whole cycle and know all the different requirements very, very far out in time. You break it down into shorter stints and develop it in packages of, say, 2 weeks, where we are very, very clear about the priorities and what is included in the 2-week package. We have candidates for future packages. Everything that we don't manage to get within the 2 weeks spill over to the next. But it's a kind of a model, a way of working, which drives up both the pace and intensity and focus where we are right now, but also clarity and allowing us to focus on some things now which we have a good grip on and pushing other things out and keeping on developing and learning as we go, changing priorities as we go to better reflect what that we're working with a moving target. The third thing I think is affecting you as a leader, the digital leadership. How is digital leadership different? Well, in the physical world, when everything is physical and leadership, we can kind of try to drive for perfection, becoming even better, even better, even better. But when we work in the digital world, a lot of the things we don't really know, and we have to test certain things. So I've seen that when you approaching this from the perspective and with the methodologies and the leadership philosophies that was ruling the world before digital, it tend to become a little bit too hesitant. We don't really know where we should go. We don't have everything clear, so we tend to hold back a little bit. Where in the digital arena, on the digital life, it's more about pushing for progress before perfection. So it's more important to get out there, test and evolve, not necessarily for all of your project, but pick a pilot project, do some of the pioneering there, and start pushing and testing and see where it's going. These are 3 lessons, I think, that you can learn from the telecom industry and applies to your challenges. I would also like to encourage you to, when you think about 5G, there's a few things you should be aware of. First, when you're building a building, you might most likely want to have 5G coverage in that area before you start building, so that you can leverage the capabilities of 5G networks and the connectivity when you build. Because most likely a lot of the processes improvements that you're going to put in place are going to be reliable on connectivity. It's not going to be something of wired nature because your building is not there yet. And it's most likely going to be something of wireless nature, which is business critical. So start thinking about, hey, how do we secure we have 5G coverage at the site before we start building? The second thing, if you look inside of the buildings, today no one really thinks about 4G and how it gets on the inside, because 4G is pretty much like sunlight. When it's on the outside, it reaches everywhere, and it goes through windows, so it's on the inside when it's on the outside. 5G is a little bit different. With 5G, we push it higher up in the spectrum, so it's harder for some of the more advanced forms of 5G to penetrate walls and windows. At the same time, you're putting in more energy efficient glass. And as good as it gets for keeping the heat on the inside, as bad it is for getting radio signals from the outside to get in. So I think that when you're building buildings for the 5G era, you need to pay a lot more attention to what is the 5G network coverage we would like to have on the inside when this building is complete. Where I'm standing right now, it's the Ericsson Smart 5G factory here in Texas. And in this building, we have put in 5G in different flavors to make the facility or the whole operations more efficient. So it allows us to drive new innovations, but also new use cases that drives efficiency improvements. Third piece is when you're planning for the future, 5G and the wireless world we're seeing right now with the pandemic is here to stay. So I think we're going to pay more attention to where the small working places that you can build in, like finding these 3, 4, 5 square meters here and there that could be a working spot, or that can also help us to be something where we can work in a different way. A mini studio that you can record something like this in a small facility or something different. I hope that you, with these different ideas, some on digital transformation and some on what 5G can mean for the building industry, will give us a fruitful conversation here. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Some more really interesting food for thought for all of us, really, from Peter from Ericsson. And we're going to be staying on this topic with our final set of panellists. And just to let you know, after this panel discussion, we can't all go for a beer together, unfortunately, in COVID times, but we do have a very cool digital afterwork coming up for you. So do stick around for that. And as mentioned, it's been wonderful getting loads of questions in. Thomas has been looking after those. We haven't been able to get to all of them so far, but we still want people to get involved, right?
Yes, please. Keep them coming, and obviously we can't answer all of them right here on the sessions, but we will get back to you, and we'll address these questions to our panelists and keynote speakers, and we will get back to you and publish these answers online in a short while later on. So keep them coming. We encourage you, and we look forward to having them.
All right, and so the guests again, please, Thomas.
Oh, I guess then. I think, Mary, you're kind of pushing over all the hard Scandinavian names for me to pronounce. Isn't that true?
No comment.
No
Who
comment,
have we
no,
got with
no.
us for this discussion?
No, okay. Well, for this comment, we have, or we don't have Peter Linder from Ericsson.
No, I don't think he can join us. We'll
No,
wait
I
and see
think that
whether we
he's-
can
he's
get a
not online.
connection. Yeah.
Besides that, we have our own Per Carlsson joining us here on the sofa. He's from Symetri, as you probably know by now. We also have Àstridur, Elin, Àsgeirsdottir. I hope I did some good there. And you are the head of VDC at Aarsleff in Denmark. And for you who don't know about Aarsleff, it's one of Denmark's leading construction companies. And once again, we also have Bjälnes, who is a digital strategist at Tyréns. So very welcome, Àstridur and Per. And Per. So I was having a question for Peter, but he's not online. But I'm going to kick off with a question for Per. Bjälnes instead. You've been working quite a lot with these things together with Telia. I know. And for you who doesn't know about Telia, Telia is the Swedish telecom company. It's one of the world's largest internet service providers. And you've been working as a strategist, helping them to with their efforts within 5G. Can you tell us a little bit about that and what that's leading to?
Yeah, that's correct. It's their sub-company Division X that are working with the development of IoT and digital twins. And we have a common customer in Norway that are building a very huge complex, about 85,000 square meters, office, hotels and service areas. And what we are actually done there is build a digital twin that are combining models, IoT sensors, BMS systems, and connectivity through both 5G, 4G, Wi-Fi, lunar radio, Zigbee, everything that you can actually connect to the building is there. And what we have done there is actually using the 5G as one of the aspirations to think forward. Can we use data from you leaving your home to the commuter train, to the building, do all things to do all day and back again, and have a seamless experience of data streamed from your workplace, your lunch, for your training exercise, or walking in on the rooftop of the building? How can you actually set up a data stream that actually are online, combined with uses of platform data from the models, from the BMS system, temperature, CO2 levels, all that kind of stuff, in actually one streaming data flow? That's really interesting, and the interest is actually used.
Yeah, I want to pick up on that, actually, Per. I mean, it certainly sounds like there would be a lot of interest in this, that there's a lot of technical hurdles to overcome. But I want to talk a bit about some of the cultural challenges around this, and I want to bring in Àstrid. I mean, it's all very well having all these great ideas for new technologies, but how do we get people on board, ordinary people? What do you think needs to change from a cultural perspective to get more people going, yeah, actually, I'd love this kind of data. I'd love this kind of connectivity.
Yeah, I think people need to have time to understand the new technology, and we need to look at how it's creating value for them. We have to look at the people in respect. It applies to entire value chain, from the management to the worker on the site. So we need the whole spectrum to understand the new technology. When we look at it on our side, in the construction site, we are also very busy, and we work on here and now issues on the construction side. And if the system does not work or it's out of power, they just cast it aside and start to do how they used to do it. So the technology needs to be plug and play. And so easy to use, easy to understand, and better than before.
Yeah, we've talked about some of these themes actually throughout the day, really, how to get people on board to understand the concepts that we might be talking about here today, disruption, convergence, digitalisation, 5G. It's getting other people to get to grips with them. And as you say, that might take some time. Let's bring in Per. What do you see as the sort of main challenges or barriers to greater digitalisation within construction and architecture?
I think the main challenge is the implementation, the adoption of the technology. There you have the key for everything, and you need to organize so people get access to that knowledge. So you need to have systems that provides knowledge for you at hand when you need it. That's what I said.
What kind of systems? How might you see that playing out?
Well, we see now we have this eras we are in right now. E-learning has grown a lot. You need to have on your tablets, on your mobile phone, find your solution, get access to real knowledge and real support when you need it.
Per, let's bring you in as well to sort of join that. What would your reflections be on what we've heard so far? What do you
Talk to me.
Yeah, what other challenges do you see? Do you agree with Per that it's about encouraging people to adopt more digital tools, and how can we get people to really get on board with that when not everyone has been working remotely from home, not everyone has loved this digital era. Some people have continued going to their manual jobs and not sort of lived this home working experience to the same extent as perhaps we have here.
Yeah, but I can take a really good example. We are setting up a huge bunch of car chargers, even by electrical bicycle chargers. So just imagine how you can use that smart 24/7 in a building like this. You can you order it when you leave from home? It's a free space for me. How much charging do my car need? When I get there, can it recognize me? Can I be charged? Can I be for notification when my car is fully loaded so someone else can use that space? Or in the evening, can the hotel use that space? Or the surrounding area use that space? Or car charging when no one's in the building? So how can you use easy using application data flows to give just a notification? You can charge your car now if you want. If you pay this, use that. Or other spaces, or even in this case, the rooftop is the biggest in the Nordics. It's huge. You can even have a small run there. How can it let other people that don't work in that space get up there, look at the view, maybe have a
Thank you, Per. Really good example. I just want to say, if anyone is experiencing some connectivity issues or sound issues, we apologise for that. I think Peter is trying to join the discussion, our keynote speaker who couldn't log on at the very beginning. So welcome, Peter. We've been talking a lot about different kinds of technologies, but actually I know Thomas had a couple of sort of layman's questions for you, really, about some of the basics.
Yeah, well, thank you so very much, Peter, for joining us, and it's lovely to have you here. I have this very layman and very low technology.
I think I know what this question is. A lot of people will want the answer.
Yeah, well, can you explain? We have a history of 3G, and I know there was 1G, 2G, obviously before that, and then we have 4G today, and now 5G. What is the major difference between these ones? And I know you were talking about that, but what will the impact of this be really, especially for construction industry and real estate industry, but in general?
A couple of different things I think is important. The first one is like all the previous generations. Well, 1G we did for business people. That's when we had the phone in the trunk, etc. But 2G, 3G, 4G has been very much driven by consumer requirements. Right now, it's a move towards 5G. It's been very much driven by consumers and business needs. So we have, from the very beginning, when we defined the standards, targeted for business. And a few of the differences you're going to see is that for 5G, we increased the capacity so much you can say that wireless is always on par with wires. And we have never been able to take so big leaps before. But it's not that you can decide, perhaps in your industry, it's a little bit like building wider and wider roads. But we're also introducing something which we call network slicing. That is very much about putting paints on the road. We've never done that in the past. But all of a sudden, we're putting paint so that important things like the bus traffic can get there on time. And smaller data traffic, like equivalent to the bike lane, we make sure that those people don't get run over. But we don't do it as like in downtown Stockholm, we lock it up for a bike lane, but we do it dynamically, so it can change over time. Instantly, in a millisecond, we can change from one traffic type to another. And the third thing I think we're doing is doing about latency. Remember when I was a kid, we ordered clothes from Ellos in Borås, and you looked in the catalog, and then 2 weeks later you got the stuff. But now everything is so much more compressed in time. So in the physical world, we're expecting deliveries a lot quicker. We're also the case for data bits in the network world. The final piece is about being able to serve all the different devices that are out there. My grandfather, his first phone number was 79 because there was barely any phones. My father's phone number was 16286. All of a sudden, there were a lot more phones. My phone number's got 7 numbers, and the same journey we're going to go through in a mobile network, so we can connect to a significantly larger amount of devices. Those are some of the key things that will make a difference with 5G.
Really interesting. That definitely answered, I think, your question and my question. Yeah. Do you have any audience questions? Just to give them a quick chance, especially while we've got Peter back. Just give you a chance to log on and see if it's refreshing.
I don't know if this one is lagging. It's definitely not connected to 5G. But still no questions here. I think maybe
we are getting them in. There's just a little bit of a time lag. But perhaps there's some concluding comments from Per, and also we should bring back in Àstridur as well.
Yeah, I actually have a question for Àstridur.
I think we've got a bit of time.
All this with 5G, will you see that this have a kind of big impact on the way you work in construction? Will this be a game changer?
Yeah, for us in Aarsleff, our core objective is VDC for all. So what we have main focus on how we can get the models on site to the workers on a smartphone, on a tablet. And we have a quite large project with one-to-one details about the reinforcement and everything. And it's so heavy, and sometimes the internet on the site is very, very bad. So I think 5G will be very, very important technology for us and a big game changer. So we can see that bringing the 3D viewer on site, this is creating most value for us.
Yeah. And Per Bjälnes, do you agree on this? Do you see that as well in your work in your digital strategies?
Absolutely, and I want to have this kind of sensors connected to 5G implement in the building, in the construction, on the rooftop, in the basement, and all that kind of stuff. So we can actually gain the data flow from these sensors online to the different models, both on construction, but mostly actually in the maintenance part, and actually measure how can our environmental performance are today, tomorrow, and hopefully for a long time. So we can actually gain from that and learn from that. How can we reconstruct or rebuild things or reuse other things? Because we understand how it developed, how it worked, how it's been used, and all that kind of stuff, and learn from that. So we really have a digital copy or digital twin that speaks to us, tell us things we don't even know that we want to know today. But tomorrow we suddenly, wow, that's what's important, and that's not important. But we need to learn that.
Yeah. And this sounds really interesting. I think it's going to be a huge game changer myself, and looking forward to it. But many thanks to you. It's time for us to move on. And a great thanks to Àstridur and Per, and obviously to Peter Linder, a fantastic last keynote speaker of the day. Thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.